What's up, everybody? Eddie Barco here with the Nebula Music Podcast, and today I'm excited to be speaking with Rotem Sivan. Now, if you've never heard of Rotem, he's an unbelievably talented guitarist who's made a name for himself on Instagram. So I knew that I had to sit down with him and really get to know his process, how he got to where he is, and frankly, I was very surprised to learn about all the obstacles he had to go through in order to get to where he is today. But he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He knew exactly that he wanted to study music, and so he didn't let anything get in his way, and I was blown away to learn about his resolve and how he managed to get through all those obstacles. I can't wait to share this conversation with you guys. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right in. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me again. I am very excited for today's episode because I have none other than Rotem Sivan joining me on this episode. Rotem, how are you?
Very good. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Eddie.
I got to ask you, man, is that how you pronounce your name? I'm a stickler for pronouncing names. I got to make sure that I get it right. So is Rotem the way you pronounce it, or is it pronounced differently?
Actually, it's great. Yeah, that's very much accurate. Yeah.
And what's the origin of that name? Like, what's the ethnic background?
So I'm from Israel originally. It's from Israel. It's a Hebrew name.
Very cool, man. Well, for those of you guys who are not aware of Rotem, shame on you, because he is a fantastic guitarist. And if you haven't gotten a chance to check out his stuff, highly urge you to go watch his Instagram videos because he's just absolutely phenomenal. You're a very talented guitarist. I think you play a lot of jazz and a lot of different styles, and I have been a fan for a while, so I'm very excited that we get a chance to sit down and talk. But I don't want to bore anybody with my own opinions about your playing. I would much rather you go ahead and talk. So, Rotem, why don't you go ahead and catch us up? Let us know maybe a little bit about your backstory and what you've been up to lately.
Sure. So basically, I'm originally from Israel. I moved to the U.S. I moved to New York. I live in New York currently, and I came here to go to school. I went to the New School for jazz, and I graduated about 4 years ago. And I have a trio that I work with very often. We're all based in New York, and we travel often to Europe and South America and playing different venues and festivals and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like in and out of the city often, but it's a great thing to do, and it's always exciting to kind of like be in New York and play here and then head out and kind of refresh. So
absolutely, man. And let me ask you this: so you moved from Israel to New York. What made you choose New York? I mean, New York is a fantastic, fabulous city. I think it's definitely one of the top threes in terms of music in the U.S. But I'm just curious, like, why not LA versus New York?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for jazz, it's a really, really strong center. I mean, for all art, I would say, but also just, the jazz community here is super strong. And I had a good opportunity with the school to study there, and they gave me a really good scholarship so I could afford attending it. And there's just so many amazing musicians in New York. So you just get your ass kicked all the time. And that really makes you, work harder and like try to be as good as you can. So that I was like, okay, I'm going to try to make it happen.
No, absolutely. And so, like, how long have you been doing music, would you say? From the very beginning, like, when did you get started? And then how did that lead you, to studying music in New York and then to what you're doing now?
Sure. So, I mean, I kind of play guitar, just like some, basic songs, not seriously, maybe in middle school or something. And then kind of at the end of high school, I was like, wow, music, that's amazing. I don't know. I just like got into it seriously. And I don't know. I think someone played me like a jazz album, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I don't understand anything that just happened here. I was like, but it felt like a universe of sounds that I was like, wow, I really want to be a part of it. And I remember like listening and really saying to myself, wow, I have no idea what's going on, but I really want to understand. And then I just started this process. In Israel, you're supposed to go to the army, but I kind of skipped that.
Really?
Yeah, that was a whole whole thing.
Whoa, whoa,
That
whoa!
was
Hey, hang on a second. So you skipped out on going to the army. I think I was aware of that. I have a couple Israeli friends who have served in the military, and I believe it's a requirement. I mean, I don't know too much
oh
about
yeah,
it. So
it's a
how?
very uh,
Go ahead. I mean, how did that happen? How did you skip out on that?
um well, I was like, okay, I felt that I'm either gonna stay in Israel and not do music, or I'm gonna try with all my heart and effort to do music. I was basically deciding, or I kind of said, I'm going to give it a try, a serious try with music. And I felt that I needed all the time in the world to practice and really take it seriously. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to really try not to do it and pursue a music career. Because, I mean, it's 3 years of your life. And, it's a great thing if you're want to do that path, but I really wanted a different path, and I knew that I have to take this time to practice and study music. And so it's a very long story, but I did a lot to not be there, and I managed to do it so I could really study. And then I started studying classical music at the university, at Tel Aviv University, classical composition actually, and then I moved to New York to study jazz. So I had like I start with classical music before diving into jazz, at least from the educational, like I played and practiced jazz, but I studied all the masters of, the classical era.
Wow, I have so many questions, but you know what? Like, I guess what I'm curious about, and you know what? Feel free to stop me if it gets a little too personal. But I'm curious, since joining the military is practically, a requirement for everybody in, Israel, which I highly respect. How is it specifically that you were able to get out of it? And were you able to get out of it because you moved out of the country? And does that affect your citizenship at all? And again, I'm just honestly curious, and feel free to be like, hey, I can't talk about that. That's perfectly fine. But you get what I'm saying? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
It blows my mind that you went to those extents to study music. And I just want to know more.
Okay, I can explain a little bit. So basically, no, if you go out of the country and you're just like not going to the army, that's very illegal. Then you will be sent to prison and you can't go back, basically. So I did not do that. I got out in a very legal way, but yeah, it's just a very complex process, and I told them basically that I have to do music. And I mean, it was much more intense and much more involved than just that. But this is all I can say at this moment. we can go out, have a few drinks, and talk about it more. But yeah, that's like it's a long story. It's definitely a complex issue.
Wow. You know what? Yes, I'm going to have to take you up on that offer whenever you're in LA. But you know what? Here's the thing, what I get from that, which I loved just from the get-go of this conversation, which I understand about your character, is that you knew you wanted to do music so bad that you did everything you possibly could to make that happen. And you wanted to study jazz, so you wanted to come to New York, which honestly, like you said, it is probably the hub for jazz in the United States. How big is the music scene in Tel Aviv or in Israel? Because obviously you had a choice to probably stay there and pursue music there, if I'm not mistaken, but you chose to come here and study jazz and study music further in the United States. So that just makes me, wonder what's the difference in the music culture in New York versus Tel Aviv or Israel?
For sure, it's a good question. So first, I guess, interesting enough, the music scene in Israel, in terms of jazz and in music, it's a very, very strong scene. There are a lot of very influential Israeli artists and musicians that are acting in the global scene within jazz and within New York as well. So when I was living in Israel, I had the opportunity to really study with people that basically lived and hung out in New York for like 10 or more years and moved back to Israel to raise their family. So we had like a bunch of amazing teachers that were, literally first-class musicians that really knew what's up. So that was very, very helpful. Israel is a small place, so there are so many opportunities that you have versus, the US and New York. And just like in New York, there are so many clubs and so many places and so many people that are playing. So it's just like the opportunities to get better are just immense, I mean, and in New York, it's like there is this vibe that everybody wants to play. So you can hit up almost anybody in the jazz scene. And, if you're in town and they're in town and you have some kind of like connection with them beforehand, or, they'll be like, yeah, let's play a session, like almost everybody. And that's like an amazing aspect of New York. Everybody really wants to just like play and create all the time. I mean, I literally, I have like bass and drums and piano at my spot in Brooklyn, and I play sessions like every day, like literally. So, and I'm doing it consciously because I want to surround myself with music and get better. It's like we get better at what we do. If you want to run, really well, you should run. It's like you need to do what we want to do. If you want to be a really good sight reading musician, you just need to sight read. It's very simple, So the same thing with jazz. If you want to get good at jazz, I feel you just need to do it as much as you can all the time. And like practicing is one thing, but playing with people and like being inspired by them on a daily basis is like really helpful, I think. So I was trying to create a situation here as well.
That sounds fantastic. And you know what? Here's the one thing I'm a little curious about. Well, there's plenty of things that I'm very curious about. And I'm an LA born native, and so I'm very well versed with the music scene here in LA, but I've always loved what I've heard, like all the stories that I've heard about the New York scene. And one of the things I've always heard about are the jam sessions that happen, especially in the jazz world. And so I guess I'm curious, like, are there a lot of jam sessions that are happening in New York right now? And do you go to a lot of those? Or how is that scene where you guys just get together and just play with each other? Because I know a lot of great musicians are coming out from that scene right now. And so I'm curious about it.
There are a lot of jam sessions, or I wouldn't say a lot, but there are a few jam sessions that are happening every night. Like at Smalls, at Fat Cat, sometimes Zing Bar, and some of the like basically kind of like clubs around the West Village. Well, honestly, like I had after finishing school, or like when I was in school, like I used to go out like every night and like hang out till like 5 a.m. every night and play in all the jam sessions that I could. And like, I was just like, okay, let's do it, Now I'm like, I'll go hang and I'll see my friends play. But it's more rare that I'll stay up to like 5 a.m. and hit all the jam sessions. Because I just got back from a month's tour. I'm like destroyed. I'm just like, I want to catch some sleep. I want to be in the same time zone. I want to just like see my friends, I'm going to hang out tonight and see some shows, but I don't think I'll probably stay till 5 a.m. to hit the jam sessions. But, sometimes I do it, but like, it just like depends on the vibe. But I definitely had a period of time that I was doing it full force. Nevertheless, if you are like into that right now and that's your vibe, so I mean, it's awesome to see it and it's awesome to just like hang and play, and it's definitely a possible thing if you want. So yeah.
I'm always fascinated by the most random things, but I love to get to know, how it is that, what drives you and just what makes you different from everyone. And the one thing I really love about your story so far is just that I've already gotten to know that you're willing to do pretty much anything to do what you love. And in the jazz scene, one thing I loved about it, because I do play a little jazz myself, is that it's incredibly diverse, at least here in LA. You can find anybody from almost any nationality. I'm curious, like, are there a lot of people that come from, Israel or like the like Middle East to the US to play music, to play jazz? Is that something that you encounter a lot? Do you feel like that scene is rather diverse? And again, it's just me just being curious. I love that about jazz. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about jazz, that it's a very, very open language, and it's very, very international. And it kind of, what I like about it, it really embraces different cultures into it, instead of like saying that's not cool. It's more like, that's the way I see jazz, at least. It's like it has its own very, very strong roots, American roots, of course, but it's taking influences from a lot of places, and everybody kind of bring his own spin and take on it. So I mean, it's awesome, especially in New York. You just have a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds that are bringing different elements and bring that into the music. So So yeah, I mean, they're just like everyone, from all over the place is just like here creating jazz. So it's beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely. And is there any and how do I word this? Like traditional Israeli music styles that you personally apply to jazz? Just because you're absolutely right. Jazz to me is one of the most beautiful art forms because it's the whole concept of just combining a lot of elements and creating this free form language that anybody can really understand. But that said, the beautiful thing about it is that everyone can bring their own style into it. Like for me, for example, I'm Hispanic and I love Afro-Cuban music. And every time I play jazz, I throw in a couple little Afro-Cuban stuff in there. So I'm curious about you, if there's anything, from your musical style that's very unique to Israel or like the Middle East that you apply to your own music.
Yeah. I think Israel is a very new country, so the music of Israel is very much Middle East and a lot of European influences. So I mean, it's a little bit harder. I think. I mean, there is Israeli music, and we can talk about it a little bit. But I mean, it's again, the country is very new in terms of heritage, of musical heritage. Talking about Israeli music, I think. So I would say I was exposed to certain styles of music, and I bring them to the table, or hopefully I do. And and also, I mean, I'm very interested in Middle Eastern music, Arabic music, Indian music. So I try to kind of bring all of that into the mix.
Absolutely.
Does it make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And I think that answered my question very well. And that's the one thing I love about jazz. And the one thing I've always been curious about is I know you tour a lot. So you specifically, I believe you just came back from a European tour. And so jazz is, in my opinion, accepted pretty much almost anywhere that I've been to. Everyone knows what jazz is, and you can always find a cool spot where jazz musicians can play. And so in your travels, in your tour, do you feel like jazz is very well accepted everywhere you've gone? And do you feel like there's a scene for it in almost every country that you've visited?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's being accepted like amazingly. Most of the tours that we do are oftentimes in Europe, and some a little bit in South America. Yeah, it seems that everybody likes jazz. But again, I mean, the places that we play are often jazz clubs and jazz festivals, so they're connected. Sometimes we play other venues as well, which I actually really like. Because, I mean, the trio, we play jazz, but it has a lot of different influences, also like rock and hip hop and other stuff. So even if people are not that into jazz, they're like coming up to us and saying, "Oh, wow, I don't like jazz, but that was awesome." And I always like that when people are kind of talking like that, because like, oh, it's cool. Because yeah, it's just music. If you don't call it jazz and you like it, it's great. It's not a scary word.
No, it's not. And let me ask you this. So for your most recent tour, where did you go for your tour? I guess I'm just curious, like which countries you visited, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about how it went, how it started, some experiences that you experienced while you were overseas, and we'll go from there too.
There So the last tour we did, Spain, Italy, Finland, and then Israel. And Israel, I'm from Israel, so there was this festival there. We played maybe 4 days as well, but it's like hometown, so I don't consider it as part of the tour. Although maybe it is. But so I guess Spain, Italy, and Finland, these were the European countries, and then Israel for a moment, yeah.
When you go on tour, is that something that you schedule yourself, or do you have like management, or do you have someone else that kind of sort of handles that for you?
So, yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, I work with a bunch of people now, or a few people, I would say, in Europe. In a few territories in Europe, we have agents that I work with. Nevertheless, I do a lot myself. I would say a lot, yeah. I had a management for some time. Now I'm not working with a management.
Really?
Yeah.
What happened, if I can ask?
Yeah, no, actually nothing bad happened. We're still in touch, but it just shifted to like slightly, they're going to do some more booking in the US instead of management. For now, we'll see. It's always a process. You need to understand the two, what everybody wants and how people see things. And so it's really clear. I mean, I don't have like a super clear answer, but that's what I decided for now.
When it comes to like with relationships with agents, just because I know there's a lot of musicians out there that are interested in, booking their own tours, maybe they haven't done it yet or they've tried a little bit. How hard is it for you to, stay in touch with these agents and to really communicate and to plan out your tour essentially? Like, how does that work with you? Do you give them in advance your available days or, walk me through a little bit that process if you can?
Sure. So usually, we'll have, in the trio, we'll have some days that we plan to be in Europe. Like, for example, now we're booking a tour in April and May, and also in the fall of 2018. So right now I'm talking with the agents that we have in Germany and in Russia and different places. And I'm telling, okay, these are the dates that we're going to be around. Can you hook this up? And, we're talking over Skype, phone, emails, but I also do a lot myself. So I would personally reach out to venues that I think that would be good, and I just try to do as much as I can. I don't leave things to chance. I'm really, really on it all the time. So, a lot of my time at this moment of my daily work is email. Like, I'll practice and I'll do things, but I definitely spend a lot of time working on the technical side of reaching out and progressing. Yeah.
How much time would you say that it takes on your daily basis to like communicate when you're planning a tour, at least specifically? Like, how long does it take on a daily basis to, look at all your emails, respond? Because it's a hard thing to do. I do this for a lot of different things. Emails practically takes half my day to get down right. So I'm curious, like for you, like how long it takes.
Yeah, it takes pretty much all day. I try to. Sometimes I have periods where I'll just get up and I'll be like, okay, I'll have a coffee and then I'll just sit down and do it, through the day or through most of the day. And it's very hard. So these days I'm trying to be more balanced, and, I try to like wake up, go to the gym, practice a little bit, and then dive into the emails, and then like also tell myself, because I feel like there's so many things to do. I have these like lists of things I want to do or need to do, respond to people and tours that are being planned and things that I'm supposed to do. So that list is so long. So even if you do like a few things, it's just like, oh, I barely scratched the surface. So now my new thing is I have like instead of a big notepad, I have like a little piece of paper, those sticky notes. It's like one. Yeah, so I take these because it's simple. I'm like, okay, I'll just write like between 3 to 7 items when I get up in the morning that I'm going to do. And instead of like having like 100, and even if I do 5, it like doesn't seem that I did anything. So now I feel a little bit better because I can like, okay, I did the 5 that I had to do, and now I can do something else. I can go check out the show that I really want to, or go hang out with a friend. But I still feel like I did some work.
That's actually really cool because that's very similar to the process that I do. And it's interesting for me because anyone who's ever been successful at anything, whether it's music or business or whatever, they all have their different methods of getting things done, and some people do like that approach of having like a long list of just things to do and they just check it off as they go. But for me, what I've learned, and I actually learned this from a story that I read once in an article, but beyond the point is I basically try and do 6 things, 6 major things a day. I think when I first started, I tried doing 2, but as you get better, you can write more things. But I've learned mentally when you have like, 20 plus things to do, mentally I get stressed out. I'm like, oh my God, I got to do so much stuff. But when I break it down to 5, 6 simple steps of just like, all right, I got to finish 100 emails. That's an extreme example, but you get what I'm saying. It's my focused to-do list is what helps me get a lot done in a long period of time. And I think you have definitely mastered that while doing that on your sticky pad, which is so important for any musician out there trying to do a lot of things, especially like booking a tour.
Yeah, for sure. It's good to do things, and it's good to also feel that you're doing, because I think I feel like I'm really doing or trying to do a lot of things. And sometimes the feeling, like it's important for me to have the feeling of fulfillment that I did stuff, because I know I'm working and I'm not just like hanging around all day, but like having this list, this like precise, things that I'm going to do in these few hours is helpful for me again. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I'm curious a little bit about your musical style, man. Like I love jazz. So I'm curious, who are you into right now? Like it could be a jazz guitarist. It could be a band. I mean, I don't really know, but what do you listen to for inspiration in terms of music?
Well, I guess I listen to a lot of non-jazz stuff. I mean, I like music, Soul Child, Future.
Yeah. I love
Culture. That. Yeah. Azealia Banks. Tigran Hamasyan is a jazz and beyond kind of piano player. I mean, honestly, I just like check out a lot of other styles. I just got into Grizzly Bears, Dirty Projectors. Man, there's just so much music out there. And I had a very long period of time that I just listened to jazz and classical music. So I'm like still discovering, be like, oh wow, this world of and also pop music. I'm like, this is awesome. Like I'll check out, heavy pop stuff and be like, oh, it's kind of cool, and I try to understand why it works, like why people like it and what's cool about it. Because music is music, and if you make good music, I think it could appeal to a lot of people, not just jazz people.
If I can ask, why do you feel it's important? And again, this may be a bit of a broad question, but you're very talented and your musical style on guitar is very, very well thought out. That's the way I describe it. And so why do you think it's important to branch out and to listen to a different variety of music? Because like yourself, I was very similar to you. I listened to a lot of jazz when I was younger and I was pretty much focused on that primarily. But then once you branch out, you tend to your musical style tends to open up to a lot of things. So for you, why is it important to listen to a different variety of styles?
It's just very, very inspiring to see what people can create and do with soundscapes. And I mean, soundscape, it doesn't need to be weird. I mean, I'm talking about like listening to Future and saying, why is this song so happening? Why? And why, like, what about it? What makes it tick, So like, is it the groove? Okay, let's talk about it. Like, I'm trying to be very specific. I like listening to something a lot of times until I really understand it on both like an emotional kind of way and also on a technical way. So I'll be like, I'll take a song that I dig and then just loop it like for days. I'll sing along, I'll be like, I had this like few music soul child songs that I was just like looping.
Which songs, like, if I can ask? I love Music Soul Child.
Just Friends.
Yes.
Man, I mean, that song is just so good. I mean, I think like 3 months literally that I played it like 10 times a day. It was insane. But I mean, all his music is just so good. I mean, just the way he's so laid back in the groove and all the articulation. I mean, it's just like, it's like magic, and I want to bring that to my music in some way. It doesn't need to be that song or that exact thing, but I just want to understand why this is so good, and be like, okay, can I make something that is like, has those ideas or those emotions, and take those colors in. So I think just like, understanding how things work and understanding what you like about them and like being more specific in the sense of like, if you're listening to John Coltrane or, whatever, Miles or Brad Mehldau and just being like, this is amazing, he's a genius, that's cool. But if you dive a little bit deeper and say, okay, why is it so good? What about it is so good? You listen to Future and be like, oh, he's a genius. Okay, he's amazing, but why? Let's be specific. The groove, okay, what about the groove? The lyrics, okay, what about the lyrics? The spacing, what exactly what is it? So I'm trying to do that, yeah.
That's so cool that you're trying to do that. And the fact that you said Just Friends by Music Soul Child, like that song is ringing in my head right now. I'm like bobbing back and forth to it because Music Soul Child is unbelievably good. Guys, if you haven't heard of this artist, which I highly doubt that you haven't, but in case you haven't, Music Soul Child, that's spelled Musiq, if I'm not mistaken, Soul Child. I just love his music. It's like super R&B. Some of his new stuff is a little bit different, but it has shaped a lot of my music styles a couple years ago. And I'm so glad that you're into that. I'm like nerding out.
Yeah.
The fact that you love that. And you mentioned Just Friends, which I love that song. It's such a great song. It's such a great song to loop.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, I think I can like hear the style in the way that you play it. And you're so right when it comes to trying to analyze what makes music good. And it's something that I strongly urge almost any musician that's out there, whether you're a drummer, guitarist, or even just another creative person, like whether you're a painter or something, stepping out of your comfort zone, out of the things that you know, usually tends to open up your mind to a lot of different things. And I know I'm branching off a little bit, but there's a book that I read, and I'm not sure if you've heard of it either, but it's called, what's it called? There's this book called Thinker Toys, which is a book recommended to me by a friend who's very successful. And essentially the concept of thinkering is essentially combining two concepts into one, two completely unrelated concepts into one. And it essentially explains how new ideas come about when you combine two existing things that have nothing to do with each other. And this book essentially taught me how to see that. And whenever I listen to music, that's what I try and do nowadays. I take two completely different styles that have or should have nothing to do with each other, and I combine them, and you create new ideas, new concepts, and you're surprised. I mean, I surprised myself the stuff that I figure out. And so when I got introduced to Music Soul Child, that was me going out of my comfort zone and learning something new, and it just opened up my mind to new musical possibilities. And I imagine it probably did the same for you.
Yeah, it's just like, it's so different than jazz, but it's just as good as, basically I feel any style, there's no like good or bad. I mean, just in the sense of, I would say there's no right or wrong of any style. Like good music is good music. If it's good blues music, it's just like, it's the best. And if it's good, R&B or hip hop music, it's the best. It's like, you're like enjoying it to the fullest. The same thing with jazz and classical music. So I would just used to be like a snob that did not want to listen to anything but jazz. So then I'll be like, wow, this is like the best. I can just listen to it, and it makes me so happy, like legitly, I just like, I'll be listening to it and be like, wow, this is amazing. I'm so happy now. And it's just like, it's an awesome thing to enjoy music that is like so different.
I'm glad that you think that way, because I think that's what makes you such a great guitarist and such a great improviser. And your style, like I've said before, is very unique and very well thought out, and your tone on your guitar sounds great. And I think I might have mentioned it earlier too. I got introduced to your stuff on Instagram. You post a lot of really cool videos, a lot of really cool content, and you've developed quite a bit of a following online because of that, because of how well you play and how cool your videos are. And so I guess I'm just curious, like, how that got started. How did you get started on Instagram? Was it just like a random thing that you just started posting? Did you think about it? Like, walk me through a little bit if you can.
Sure. Yeah, I had an Instagram account, but I didn't post anything. I didn't really get it I didn't use it. I just opened an Instagram account because it was like, what is this? And I didn't really touch it. I posted maybe 3 pictures or something. And then I just didn't do anything with it. And then I was talking with a very good friend of mine, and we collaborate a lot. She's an amazing singer and player, Gracie Terzian. And she was like already super into Instagram at that moment in time. And she was like, oh, it's a really cool way to like find out about other music, like other musicians, and also just like to post stuff and like get people connected to what you're doing. So I was like, okay. I'll be like, okay, I'll check it out. So I just like started to get into it. It was kind of like, I didn't take it too seriously. I just like, I posted something every once in a while. And then I tried to be like, okay, I'll try to post something, every day or every 2 days or something. So I was trying to be like more like serious, or not, not serious, just like posting stuff that I'm doing, like videos or like from shows or like, you know, and you know, I just started to do it more and more. I mean, and that's it. I mean, there's no, I'm just trying to post stuff that I'm doing. There's not much to it in that sense. I mean, it's not very planned. I'm just like posting videos and communicating with people. I like, you know, I check out people on Instagram and be like, wow, this is amazing. So many amazing musicians, and it's very inspiring. And like, I like sharing, you know, what I like as well. And like, I'll post people that I like or things that I'm checking out sometimes, you know.
And so, like, was there a moment when you realized that your account was getting more successful? Like, did you stop and say, oh, wow, I have a couple thousand people following me now. Like, maybe I should try and change my content a bit. Does that make sense? Like, was there a moment where you noticed that you were starting to become more well-known online?
Not really. I mean, I feel like it's just like, it's been like a process. There was no like moment I was like, oh, wow. I just like posted stuff, and I noticed that instead of like, I don't know, 1,000 people checking the video, it was like 2,000 or something. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But I mean, it's like, it's nice that people respond to what you're putting out there, but it's like, it's not like the point, at least for me, you know, because like I'm just playing music, and it's another tool to access more people, you know, and more like meet people, meet friends and fans, or, you know, and communicate with your community. And I like that a lot. Like, I like that there's like a vibe and like a music community, and each person has like his own world, and we can kind of like check that world for very fast and be like, wow, amazing. But
absolutely.
But yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. But just like, I mean, there's no, I don't know. I didn't have any moment that I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I really don't know. I mean, I think they're probably changing the algorithms all the time. I don't know how it works or why like this video would be better than that video. You know what I mean? Or people like, I'll go to other guitarists, people, you know, like musicians, and I'll be like, wow, this guy's freaking amazing. And he doesn't have as many followers as another guy that is like, you know, as amazing as he. So it's like, I don't know how it works, honestly.
You know what? I think you bring up a really good point. It's an interesting world to be in. And the one thing that you said previously that I really enjoyed is that you said you're basically checking out everybody's world. That's a very good way to describe Instagram and, you know, even just social media in general, is that you're basically creating your own little network and your own little world, and you're displaying that, you know, for the rest of the world to see. And you're absolutely right. There is a huge community of musicians now that are using that tool for their advantage. It's almost like a standard now where you create your own little world, you display what you're good at, people come and check it out, you have your own little fan base, and then you can expand your network through that. And in a way, that's how you and I met too. And that's the one thing I love about it, is that it's checking out this little world. But you're absolutely right also that the way Instagram and you know, Facebook and other things work is slightly different than the way it used to be, at least when I started. And the algorithm, you know, that's something we can spend hours talking about. It's a very huge analytical, boring topic when you get into it. But the reality is it's something that determines a lot of statistics, but doesn't matter to me per se. I think the content that is good, no matter how much it's viewed or not, will always surpass content that isn't good. You know what I mean? So if you're a good player, that shouldn't discourage you from posting, in my opinion. For
sure. I mean, there's no question. I think good content is good content, and people like good content. I mean, you know, that's like every channel that I check out that is like, the person is playing awesome stuff, and it's like also fresh in some way, if it's the video, if it's the idea, if it's like his vibe, whatever it is. So people will check it more, you know. It's like it's like kind of trying, I mean, I don't know if trying, but like people that have like a fresh-ish take on what they're doing, even if a lot of other people doing something similar or close, but they have something a little bit different. So it's like, you know, it will be like noticed more. But again, content is the main thing, like that it's good, genuinely good.
Absolutely. And so take Rotem's word for it, because your content has to be good. And I think it has to be enjoyable to you as well. And the one thing I love about watching your videos is that I know you like what you're playing, that whatever you post, it's something that you had fun making, whether or not thousands of people viewed it or not, you're cool with it. You're like, yes, I love this and I'm playing this. And like you said, you even share other things that you like. And that's the one thing I love about your account is that anytime I go on there, I know that I'll see a video that you stand behind.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I only post stuff that I believe in that sense, you know. I don't like, I just don't post stuff that I don't believe in. That's like, you know, I'm being very honest.
As you should be. I think that's a practice that everyone should practice because it's one of those things where I have said before, you know, on social media, I'm a huge advocate that you need it as a tool, but you have to be honest. You have to be who you are. You have to be posting what you like. And just if you do that, you will always be genuine and people will like you for what you are. So wise words from you, Rotem. And I'm curious, dude, you're doing a lot of things. You know, you're touring a lot. You're posting a lot of videos on social media. You're getting highly successful. Are you getting into the commercial world in terms of like songwriting and writing music for other people? Because I believe I saw you recently posting that I think you co-wrote a song for a commercial or something like that. So I'm curious, like what other work you're doing with your music stuff.
Yeah, I had a chance to produce. I'm producing an album or two for other people at the moment. I had a chance to do a few commercials. So I wrote this the last fall campaign. Fall? Was it fall? Yes. For Cole Haan, the shoe company. So yeah. I co-wrote the music with another producer, and you know, it's like that was awesome. It's like their new thing, and they're using it in all their videos. I did a few other things. I did record some guitar for a commercial for Tiffany's and some other companies recently. 2 bigger campaigns will be released in 2018. You know, like for these kind of companies in the commercial world. Right now I'm still working on some more tours for the last album, which is Antidote, that we released a few months ago in the summer. It was kind of cool because it got into the Billboard charts, and
really
that was exciting.
How did that make you feel, getting your album on the Billboard charts?
Yeah, I mean, that was exciting and very surprising. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because I mean, it meant, I mean, that people checked it out, you know, and bought it a little bit, and some like radio play, I guess, was happening for a moment. So that was really nice. I mean, and actually, I think Instagram was also very helpful in that, because I could like tell people about the album, you know, when it came out, and you know, just having some social networks to help like spread out the word when you're doing things is really helpful. So that was really exciting. I guess except that, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna record a new album very soon, actually next month with my trio. We're doing like a little bit of a new settings. It's kind of shifting a little bit less jazzy, a little bit more, I don't know, I don't want to say rock, but it's just like has more influences of other styles of music. So we're moving to use electric bass and drums, and we're doing some electronic sounds, you know, the drums and stuff like that. So that's kind of exciting.
That's very cool. Going back to the commercial writing, because that's something I'm very interested in, and I'm just curious, how did that come to be with the commercials with like Tiffany's and with the shoe company? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you? How did that, you know, work out?
Yeah, so I did just like a session work, just playing guitar for this commercial with a producer, and then basically he's connected with these guys, and he's working a lot in that commercial world, and he just hit me up to help him out with a few things that he needed. So that's kind of how it happened. I just did one session, and then he called me for some other session work, and then we started to do a few things. He was like, I have this project, can you help me write this? And I was like, yeah, of course.
how was that session when you walked in to work for, like, let's say the shoe company one? How does that typical writing session go? Do you just walk in? Does the producer basically give you like, hey, I want this song to last 60 seconds, it's in this key, and I want it to sound similar to this song, and write some ideas? Is that essentially how it goes, or does it go differently?
Kinda. So they send a reference. They send a video, which was I think it was like Al Fanning talking about shoes or something, and then it was like, okay, and then we had the two reference track that they sent, and they wanted something jazzy. So I was like, okay, I think I got it. So I kind of transcribed what they did, like the reference track that they sent, and then I was like, okay, I can write something in that vibe. Like their reference track was, I don't know, I think in F or something, and I was like, okay, we'll do something in G, because that's like this maybe a different whatever sound. Like we talked about the keys, we tried to get the vibe a little bit. They wanted a piano trio, so it was piano, upright bass, and drums. I called friends of mine to record, and it was pretty simple. Like it was kind of clear what we needed to do. They had the chart, and then we kind of instructed them about how to go through the arc. It was like, I think maybe a minute and a half or something like that. So there were points that we needed to get to at each section, and that was kind of like, we did a few takes, and that was it. It was pretty simple after we knew what we wanted and how to shape it.
Very cool, man. I think the commercial writing world is something that a lot of musicians are interested in getting into, and it's a little difficult sometimes to figure out how, but I love how your connection essentially helped you get that, because you played what you needed to, and they liked what you were doing, and they invited you back, and now you have a bit of a knowledge on how that world works. And so I guess I'm also curious about your album, because I do love your previous album and it sounded great. In terms of getting it on the Billboard charts, is that something that just sort of happened? Did you have some sort of PR going on in the background, or was it just you just released it and you just promoted it on your own account, and then it got on the Billboard charts all on its own?
Yeah, I didn't hire PR at that moment yet. I hired PR later, after it was released. So the PR didn't really help for the Billboard. It was basically me just telling people that I put out an album, and I was like, hey, you want to check it out? So that was kind of like that. And just like I tried to post some videos on Instagram and, and I mean like Facebook and all of that, and kind of like tell people that it's, going to be out, and people were, I have some people that were connected to what we were doing before with the other albums and the trio a little bit. So they were like, oh, cool, a new album, love to check it out. So I think it's just a process of like trying to put the word out and being like, just like ongoing about it. I remember, it just reminds me of the story. I was hanging this jazz convention a few years ago, and I remember going to this festival promoter. I was like, hey, I just want to ask you, like, what would be your advice for me? Like, just a general advice, like how to go about things. She was like a strong promoter / festival manager in Europe. And she was like, just do what you're doing right now. Like, ask and try to be doing, like, being present, playing and doing this consistently and trying to do that. After some years, people will see what you're doing, and that consistency is the key to success, basically. So like,
how true?
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry. Go ahead.
So just like, yeah. So I'm trying to be consistent with my work, putting music out there, communicating with people, and hopefully eventually, more people will dig what I'm doing and be like, I want to check it out. So I think the consistency is really important, and not being like discouraged. It just takes a lot of time and effort.
Can I say something? I think that's incredibly wise, very wise words that you're saying, because I'm inspired by a lot of different people. I think some of my fans know that I'm very inspired by entrepreneurs and people that run companies and stuff like that. And, the one thing that I've learned from very successful people and some of my mentors is that patience is absolutely key. It's so easy to see your career, to see someone else's career, someone who's practically, doing something great that you admire and that you want to emulate. And it's so easy to get caught up at where they're at. You know what I mean? But Rotem, you have a long history and a long story of just things that you did to get to where you're at. And it's so easy to ignore that. It's so easy to ignore and be like, hey, I just want to get to wherever Rotem's at, like today. I'm so impatient. How can I do that? What's the shortcut? The reality is that there really is no shortcut. And this promoter is absolutely right. You have to put in the work. You have to be consistent and be patient. Yes, it's good to have that goal in mind that, yeah, you want to be, you want to have your album on the Billboard charts. You want to be the best jazz guitarist there ever was. Whatever that main goal is, that's great. But you also have to focus on the day-to-day and consistency and be there all the time. And that's where a lot of people fail, is that they get impatient. They get discouraged right away. Everyone that's ever gotten to where you're at, everyone that's ever gotten to the top will tell you it took him years just to get one step done, but they loved it. They loved that process, that constant trying things out, failing and moving forward. And then every little success fueled that ambition to keep going. And I urge anyone listening, to take example from Rotem, because you're absolutely right. Asking for advice is definitely key, but also that consistency, keeping at it every day, get that checklist going and just check things off and go after it. And then one day people will come to you. People will see that combination of all those years of work will basically create this package of who you are. And then people will love that, in my opinion.
No, for sure. I mean, yeah, I'm there with you. You're on the money.
I love your process and how you approach things. And I love your story of essentially how you chose to do music. You realized that you had different choices early in your life, and you essentially didn't let any excuses get in your way. I mean, you even dodged the military. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to be saying that. You know what I mean? But I highly urge, and I love these kind of stories. And I urge everyone out there that's listening to Rotem's story is, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, how far are you willing to go? Is this really what I want? Because if it's something you want, then you will do anything, including dodging the military, to get your career going. No, I highly respect that, man. Honestly, hearing you say that, to me, mad respect, dude, because it honestly takes guts to do that, to view your life, view your choices and say, you know what? It may not make sense in my culture. It may not make sense to my family or my friends, but this is what I want. And I'm going to do everything I can, everything in my power to make that happen. And I think you did that very well.
Thank you, man. Yeah, just trying to make things happen. That's like what I'm saying to myself, just like we got to try as best as we can and be just like persistent, because again, like you said, it takes time, and that's the way I go about it.
Absolutely, man. And so as we're getting ready to wrap this up, aside from your new album and maybe some more other songwriting sessions, is there anything else that you have on your horizon? Any other goals or musical ambitions that you're trying to pursue?
Yeah, there are two things that I'm really curious about these days. So one, I basically, I installed a microphone inside my guitar, so I can basically have percussion sounds from the guitar. And I got this, basically I'm kind of looping some stuff, I'll play some percussion stuff on the guitar, and then I'll loop that, and then I'll create some layers and I'll play over that stuff. So I'll be playing basically brushes on the guitar and different stuff, kind of drums. And get
That's cool.
And get, yeah, I think so. I mean, it's really, it's really fun to do it, at least. And so one of my goals is to be able to create a solo show, within, I guess, the next year or so, that is really cool and interesting, not for jazz audience, and that is just me messing around with these pedal stuff and exploring some sounds. And the second thing that I'm working on, that I'm trying to do, is I got this MIDI pickup that is, it has some delay, so it's not that great for live, but I'm trying to get visuals from that. So I'm working on, basically, I kind of want to have a projector visualizing what I'm playing in real time. So I'm trying to spend time on that. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. How are you teaching yourself to do all these things? Are you just looking up on YouTube and stuff?
Well, I'm actually reaching out to people that are like video artists, and I'm trying to get someone to help me like explain my vision, and trying to hire someone to write the code to what I need. So that's in process.
Very cool. You are not afraid to reach out and ask people questions, which is one of the advices, or one of the many advice that I give a lot of people. And then I think you're also sharing is that you got to be willing to ask people for help sometimes. You got to be willing to go out there. And if you don't have the information, ask. Obviously, some people may tell you no, but there will be that one person that will help you. And I think you're doing that incredibly well, Rotem. I'm very, very honored to have gotten a chance to like interview you and stuff. Like I'm very inspired by your story, dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And thanks so much for having me. Seriously. I mean, it's really a pleasure and an honor. I mean, I love what you're doing, and musically as well as the blog, man. I checked that out, quite a few of the blog stuff, and it's awesome. I mean, you're on it.
Oh man, I'm honored that you would even say something like that. I'm very happy right now. And so for someone that's, trying to get their career started, whether on Instagram or somewhere else, maybe trying to consider what they're going to do with their career, any quick little advice aside from what you've said, maybe we can sum it up in like one statement or something, but what would you tell someone that wants to be where you're at and they just want some sort of inspirational, phrase or something inspiring that will help them get to where they need to be?
I think remembering that everything is possible. I mean, if you truly want it, truly, honestly want it, you can do it. I mean, music is a language. If you want to be a part of it, you can create. And it needs to be you. It doesn't need to be jazz or blues or hip hop. And, you don't need to know everything to create. You can just have little information and create with that. And I mean, I think just like, if you feel it, just go for it, and give it all you got.
Wise words. If you feel it, go for it, and just give it all you got. 2 things to remember. If you feel it, go for it, and give it all you got. No excuses. Rotem, thank you so much for spending an hour with me. I really appreciate it. I learned so much from you, and I'm just excited to share this with everyone else.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's really a pleasure, and I'll see you soon, I'm sure.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Rotem. I know that I definitely did. And if any of you guys have ever moved to a new school or a new state or somewhere brand new, then you know how hard it is to move somewhere new. Imagine moving to a new country with new culture, with arguably a new language that you might not even understand fully. I mean, that's something that Rotem went through, and he moved to study art, which is something that our society doesn't really hold to a high standard. It's something that, many parents, many people just don't see the value in. But Rotem knew who he was. He knew what he wanted to do. And that's the one takeaway I want for all of you from this episode, is to really dig deep, really understand what you want from music. We all want different levels of success in terms of music, art. But the reality is, if that's who you are, then I urge you to go after it at all cost. Doesn't matter the obstacles that face you, you can achieve your dreams and you can achieve your goals if you just decide to push a little further every day. And I guarantee you, it isn't easy to pursue your goals. It isn't easy to pursue who you are, because sometimes it doesn't make sense to you or to other people. But I promise you this, if you stick to it, if you continue to pursue what makes you happy, you will definitely find success. Maybe it won't be in a year, maybe it won't be in a couple of years, but keep at it, and I guarantee you that you will. So if you like this episode, definitely press that subscribe button, because I've got lots of great content coming your way.